With that, we're going to start. I'm going to invite up to the podium John Stetson from the class of '93 to introduce our first distinguished alumni recipient for this year. John, Joseph.
So my name is Joe Stetson. Some call me John, that's fine.
Sorry,
no problem. I can honestly say that I am a friend of a distinguished alumnus. So very happy to say that. I do remember the day that I met Aaron. Met him right outside there on Leggett Field on the first day of 10th grade. Derek Frank, who's actually here for the reunion this weekend, introduced us. And Aaron transferred from Bergenfield High School. And what struck me about Aaron was how giddy he was about being here. Talk about happy students. He was giddy. And he wasn't giddy, you know, the way a normal 15-year-old would be giddy about going to a new school, about, you know, good-looking girls, you know, relaxed schedule, you know. I'm sure he appreciated those things too, but he was giddy about, there was a nature sanctuary here at Dwight-Englewood at the time. He was giddy about that. He was giddy about the fact that there was a photo lab here. Because you see, Aaron was at 5 different schools over the 3 years prior to coming here. And so he had perspective. He saw what we had here and wanted everybody to appreciate the resources and opportunities that Dwight-Englewood gave. And it was unlike anything he experienced. To most of us, he seemed inexplicably happy. So much so that our basketball coach yelled at him once during a game where it was a rare game where I was actually playing on the court, and Aaron was cheering very, very loudly for me, and so loudly that the coach thought he was mocking me, which probably speaks volumes about how bad of a basketball player I am, but it actually speaks volumes about how happy Aaron was, about who Aaron was. He was happy. He was appreciative. He was encouraging, he was enthusiastic. He definitely wasn't mocking me, at least I didn't think so. Personally, he gave me perspective to appreciate that, you know, my parents were attending every game and how lucky I was to have that. He taught me how special that is. And my mother's actually here tonight. She's not here for me, she's actually here for him. But I appreciate that. As our student body president here, he had perspective to realize that our school is taking itself too seriously. So he organized a Jello wrestling event. Yes, a Jello wrestling event here at Dwight-Englewood. As crazy as that event sounds, it's actually more crazy how he went about the process in getting that to happen. He got the teachers and the parents to support it before he even got the students to support it. And it was great, it was wonderful. But what that showed was that perspective could be so much more powerful when you can persuade others to see things from your point of view, which he had a very, very special gift of doing, and continue to do so, by having the perspective to start a basketball camp in New York City for city kids in the need of both mentors and male role models. And through Hoops and Leaders Basketball Camp, which Aaron started almost 20 years ago, Aaron connected the dots to recruit those mentors by persuading young professionals looking to play basketball to volunteer. And not only to play basketball with these kids, but to commit to mentor these kids for a year, which is pretty remarkable. Then he had the perspective of seeing that impact that he could have on people's lives. And he took his success in the camp, making a difference in hundreds of kids' lives in one city. And he brought his powers of perspective and persuasion to impact now 75,000 kids in 400 schools in 20 cities, and became president of one of the most significant nonprofit organizations in the country. At After School All-Stars, he provides children with perspective of what their opportunities can be, and most importantly, with the tools to realize those opportunities. So with that, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Dwight-Englewood Distinguished Alumni recipient and my dear friend, Aaron Dworkin.
John, Joe, great, thank you. All right, this is the slideshow. Oh, wow. Hi, everybody. That was amazing. Thank you, Dwight-Englewood. Thank you, Dr. Dejanay. Thank you, Maria. for organizing Alumni Weekend. There's our class rep, Paola, is here. And by the way, she's been our class rep since we graduated for 25 years, which only Supreme Court justices have longer terms. So I will put in a plug. If anybody from our class wants to take over for her, I think she's very happy to pass on. Joe, thank you so much. You're a great friend, and it's true. Joe's like a brother to me. And after we graduated high school, we took a gap year together. We went to Israel for a year on this crazy volunteer work study program. And now, at this point in our life, everyone who knows me in my life knows Joe. And actually, from work, from personal life, and actually Joe is in some ways much closer to a lot of people that I introduced him to, and people forget that I introduced. So I go to weddings, and they're like, Joe's gonna be there. I'm like, I introduced you to Joe. They're like, oh, we love Joe. Joe, by the way, runs the New York Red Bull soccer team, so if you live in the area, please go and support that team, and he's here. And I'll just say it's been fun to have front row seats to each other's lives and watch grow up with each other, and couldn't ask for anybody to present this to me more than you. It means a lot, Joe. I think about you. And then I got Joe's mom, too, and so I will just emphasize the last thing, that my relationship with Joe and the Stetson family is like one of the greatest contributions the school could give to me. Now, I'm also very lucky that my wife, Lauren, is here, and I love her. She's an amazing wife, she's an amazing mom, and she's an amazing partner, and any success and any award or recognition I could get as an adult that's positive is all thank you to her. So thank you, Lauren. And also, let me just say, any mistakes and anything I do that's embarrassing, that's all me, okay? It has nothing to do with her. But we're also, I'm really lucky my children are here. My son Miles, we live in Washington, D.C., and so they just drove all day to get here. Miles just finishing second grade, my daughter Gabrielle, who's gonna be in kindergarten next year. And one of the reasons I wanted them to be here is so they understand how important education is to our family, and that importance started here for me. And also, it was very funny. Miles had a lacrosse game, and they missed some lacrosse, and they're missing gymnastics and all these things. And my wife said to them, listen, you will have another lacrosse game and another gymnastics. Daddy won't get an award again. This never happened again. So thank you guys for coming here. Also, they're not here, but I can't stand here without saying thank you to my parents. Right? When my parents were able to send me here, it was like a big deal for them. It was a big sacrifice. They worked really hard. They were really proud. Like, not just proud of me, they were like proud of themselves. Like, we were able to like figure out how to like send him to Dwight-Englewood. And you know, it's still something that I know that they are proud of. And let me just also say that I'm very clear that this award is not for anything I did during high school. So this is not for anything I did athletically or academically. Actually, the people who won those awards, they're here, like Megan. Yeah, those folks do, you know, they deserve it, they get those, Derek. I was not that. So thank you. This is all like stuff that I did get set up to do because of Dwight. And thank you to the faculty and the classmates that are here. Now, because this is also our 25th reunion weekend, I was telling people I was coming in town for this, and they were like, well, what was so special about it? Like, what did you get from a school like that? And it reminded me of when we were all in school, there were always a few kids in every grade who I call like the what'd you get kids, who after every test and paper, they're like, what'd you get, what'd you get? And so the reality was they never bothered me much because they weren't really interested in my grades or they weren't threatened by them. But it's still a fair question. And so since I'm standing here and I get a chance to kind of rewrite history, I'd like to tell all of you about the 3 straight A's I once got at Dwight-Englewood. And they stood for, like Joe mentioned, appreciation, advocacy, and going above and beyond. And I'll just say that again, Joe mentioned it, I did come here after having this was the 5th school in 3 years, between 7th and 10th grade. For various reasons we moved around. I was in big schools, public schools, small private schools. I was in schools in California, here in New Jersey. And you see a lot. And you see what some kids have, and you see what other kids don't. And it's motivated me. And I remember even just on the cafeteria, Joe was saying I was giddy, but it was like that. He's not exaggerating. I remember showing up here in the cafeteria on the first day, and I had my tray of food, and I got to the end of the line, and they had like Pepperidge Farm cookies and all this cool stuff, and I go and I get to see some kid, I'm like, so where do we pay? And he's like, you don't need to pay. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's part of your tuition. You can eat as much as you want. I was like, get out of here! This is amazing! So it just like started there and it kept going. I also, I appreciated the strategic scheduling. I remember that they had they were very wise. Maybe I think they still do this. They had like mandatory extra help time, and they had time so you could be in clubs, and then you could also have time to be after school on sports teams and in drama. So then we all kind of looked really well-rounded when we applied to college. And then, you know, and I just appreciated the individual attention. And I had been in schools where you were known as your student ID number. And here, all these teachers and these you know, administrators were taking time to really get to know everybody. And so that has led to what I do now. And you know, Joe kind of mentioned, but like the goal of my organization, we run 3 after-school and summer programs for 75,000 kids and 400 what they call Title I schools. That's where the majority of those kids don't have enough money, so they're on the free and reduced lunch program, right? Free lunch. And what we do is provide them all the opportunities their schools and their families can afford or access otherwise. And everything under the sun that we can do. And our vision is simply to do the things that Dwight-Englewood does without thinking, without maybe always writing it down, but they do it. And our vision is like we want every kid to be safe and healthy, graduate high school and college, find a job they can be passionate about, and give back to their community. And it's something that all of you do. And there's so much, when you work in the nonprofit world, you see that Dwight-Englewood, every little piece of Dwight-Englewood that you've talked about in other settings is like a national nonprofit to help a lot of kids who don't have those resources. Now, I'm not alone in feeling this way. And actually, my classmate Laura Rigolosi is here. And she went, and all her circle of friends, as far as I can tell, are teachers. I think she had another friend who became a physician. But everyone takes what they get from Dwight-Englewood and tries to figure out how to, you know, help others with it. And Laura, I'll just say, because we're very close, after being a New York City public school teacher, she went and got her doctorate in education from Columbia, and now she trains teachers all across New York City, so all kids can have teachers as talented as the teachers we have here at Dwight. The other A that I once got here stood for advocacy. And I'll just say, you know, I never saw kids kind of like speaking up as much as when I got here. And I remember when I got here, the Gulf War was starting, whatever side you were on, there were like kids like really passionate about like, you know, on both sides of that. I remember there were some students walking around with signs, protesting all the time, and I was like, wow, they take it seriously. And I know that students this year still, with the Parkland situation, we're protesting this year. So it's something that continues, where kids are using their voice and standing up. And I just also remember how kids did it on a lighter way. There was a guy named Noah Pressler who ran for student government a year ahead of me, and he had huge billboards that he hand wrote that were like Pressler on parking. Like, I'm gonna go find more parking spots for people who need them. And we also, he's like, I need peace negotiations with the librarians because they're kicking out too many students. And like, he was like advocating in a way that I'd never seen anyone do. And in my real job, I actually do a lot of advocacy. One of the reasons I moved to Washington, D.C. is because there's about $1.2 billion a year in federal after-school funding just for the programs that I run, my organization runs, and it's always on the chopping block. And you have to make a case, and kids don't vote, and kids can't lobby, and if you don't have adults who go on their behalf to make the point that they need to have the same investment, you know, they're not going to get it. And the last A I really took from this school was this kind of what I saw all over the place was this desire to go above and beyond and work really hard. And I saw it with the students, and you're talking about how they studied. I remember the first time I was invited to a library on a Saturday to be part of a study group. It was still nice outside. I was like, what is going on around here? Who are these kids? And I saw it with my basketball team, and we had players who wanted to play in college, and they would have organized practices by themselves with no coaches around. And it was like months before the season. I know that's very normal now, but when I showed up here, I'd never seen that before. And that kind of work ethic. And actually, I'll say, Joe references dad, but I even saw it in the parents. And all the parents who were so busy, but they were still volunteering at all these events. And Joe's dad, God bless him, he used to not only come to our games at our school, but he would come to all those games at all those like little random private schools Dwight used to play, like in Central Jersey and South Jersey, and like he would come. And he'd be like the only parent there, and he would come even when we didn't play. And I was next to Joe on the bench sometimes, and we didn't, he was still there supporting us, and so it was kind of funny. Now, I didn't always learn that lesson the right way, and I don't want to accuse Joe, but somebody, maybe Joe, maybe not Joe, was on the track team with me in 11th grade, and our practice was to run to the George Washington Bridge and back. And instead, we ran to Joe's house. And we watched Facts of Life, and we watched Different Strokes, and we ate Oreo cookies, and we threw water on our shirt, and we even got a ride back, probably from his mom, who didn't know what she was doing. And the coaches thought we were so fast. They're like, you guys are amazing, you're making it. So then they put us up against the fastest kids from the next school, and we got crushed. But we learned our lesson, we never did that again. We did, you heard the story of starting a basketball camp. It was really special. Joe has been everything in all these projects that, it was called Hoops and Leaders, and we did it because this, Big Brothers Big Sisters could not find guys, and then we would play basketball twice a week, and there were crowded gyms filled with amazing guys. And that camp, like he said, ran in 7 cities last year, and LeBron James picked my organization to play for at the NBA All-Star Game. He got to pick a charity to play for, and he did it because of this basketball camp. And I'll just say that when one night, right before the end, we would end this camp with like a banquet and a ceremony and community service project. And I think we were 23 or 24, and the day before the banquet, I'm running around New York City, and I'm like getting like the flowers for the project, the shovels, and I'm getting food, and I'm picking up trophies. I'm like zigzagging Manhattan. And at a certain place and time, I just stopped, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. Like, who runs around like this? And the only example I had were the parents at Dwight-Englewood, who I felt like did anything and everything for their kids. And then I really thought, and I had that aha moment of like, well, why would they do that? Like, isn't that annoying? And then you realize, well, if something's your baby and something's your passion, you're happy to go above and beyond. And that's what I got from this school. Those were my 3 A's. And I know this is an award, but I really feel that everything I get from this school is a gift. And I believe that I'm not alone in wanting to do all these things. And I'll just say that, like, you know, when I talk about Laura, and we have a great friend here, Shivali, who's started an organization to advocate on behalf of women who are battered women, and then she got some language into the Violence Against Women Act, and so I know she's out there advocating. And we have a classmate named Mark Martin, who's in Baltimore, who I just connected with, and he's been a principal in urban school in Baltimore, and he's turned it around, and he does so well, they always want him to leave, and he won't leave, and he's been there for 10 years, and instead he's just trying to share what he knows with other schools and other communities. And so there are all these things I get from Dwight, but I'm not alone, and the real gift of this school is that I got to be in the community of so many other distinguished alumni. So thank you so much.